SAO panel where we'll talk about SAO probably just a little bit.
Yeah, probably just a little bit.
This is that's all we can promise, is that we'll talk about SAO this much.
We'll try.
Hi, I'm Bryce Papenbrook, and I'm the English voice of Kirito.
Woo! And I am Cherami, and I'm the English voice of Asuna.
We talked about SAO. See, we did it.
We did it. Also,
we fulfilled our obligation of the panel.
We'll talk about SAO a little bit more. We also get to read the audiobooks for the light novels for Sword Art Online. So not just the animated, but also the light novels. So if you want to check those out, they're from Yen Press.
Has anyone listened to the audiobooks yet?
Oh, sweet. Very cool.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
That's a lot of fun.
How was the experience for you, Cherami? Because you've had experience doing audiobooks before.
Very, very little. I did the Color World series, and then I've done some audiobooks for schools. So like different reading levels. I would do things like that, like very short stories where you'd have to read. So there's been a couple times people have said, I think my kid is listening to your books. They are. But yeah, those are the only audiobooks I've done, and then I started working on these for Yen Press, which has been very, very fun, because you do all the male character chapters, or the chapters from the male perspective, and then I'll do the chapters from the female character's perspective. So it's been really fun to get to see things from not just Asuna's perspective, but also from some of the other characters' perspectives. I feel like I've gotten a broader sense of the show, which has been nice.
Yeah, and starting with the very first story, like it was so reminiscent of those times. I mean, it's been almost a decade since we started.
That's so weird to say.
When we started that first show, and they said the date that the VR game was released, and it was 2022. I was like, that's so far in the future. This is crazy.
And
I'm sure it's gonna be like that, and yeah, here we are. Which is insane to think, And I thought it was so creative of them to now release SAO Progressive to kind of take us back and re-explore the world of Aincrad in the way I really wanted to, like just that deeper immersion into that whole experience. And from Asuna's perspective is so cool. Was anyone able to go see it in theaters?
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
Also, somebody asked me this weekend, and I said I would ask you, but you were way far away in the same room all weekend with me, but I never got to ask you. Do you know when SAO Progressive is like released streaming or via DVD? They haven't told me any of those things.
Yeah, they typically don't tell voice actors anything.
Especially not these two voice actors.
Yes, definitely not us.
We are the Tom Hollands.
And they know that.
And they know
They definitely know
Especially when we're together. We like feed each other's excitement, and we'll be like talking about something and a microphone's nearby, and we're like, oh, did everybody hear that? Whoops.
So they've learned not to tell us.
But I wondered if maybe, sometimes you get inside info because you know who to ask.
Once in a while.
I don't.
I sneak in there and I discover stuff, but it's very rare. But I would assume that they would release it for streaming sometime before the next movie is released.
Yeah, I would hope so, so that people could watch it and get caught up.
And then enjoy the second movie, which I believe, has anyone read the Progressive novels? So I would think this next film continues where the story kind of left off. I hope.
I will say, if you've read Sword Art Online Progressive, the novels, and you have not seen Sword Art Online Progressive, the movie Part 1, I highly recommend that. There's a character that is not in the novels that is in the movie, so it is even more additional content than you can get from just the light novels, which was really fun to get to work on. And I liked getting to see Asuna before she is the Asuna that we know to be in the story. We kind of saw her, well, not to pun unintended, progress into the character that we know and love. And I really appreciated that, because you know, sometimes when you would be in such a very, I would think, strange situation of jumping into a game, and if you die in the game, you die in real life, and then suddenly everybody just knows how to respond, and everybody's like, we got this, let's take care of it, let's take care of business. I don't think that's how a lot of us would respond. I know for sure that's not how I would respond. I would be like, I'm gonna cry for 800 years. That would be very stressful for me. So it's kind of nice to see with the movie, they take that time to kind of see how people are responding to that dire situation and give it a little bit of time to breathe before we jump into let's handle things and see how we get a game plan going, which was fun.
I was absolutely blown away by your performance in the movie.
Same. You were so good.
I think I mean, working with Alex, like he has a very unique directing style. Like he wants very real performances and real sounds, but what I found so interesting about your performance is like, even though you were dubbing and it's anime and I know what you're doing to hit that sync, like it just sounded like a real conversation.
Oh, sweet.
Throughout the whole movie, and like I was just so immersed in the film, brought in kind of by your performance. So it was incredible. I highly recommend you guys go check it out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been so fun getting to work with Bryce for, like a decade, which feels very strange to say. Because I've seen his work and I know him as an actor and then just as a person and as a friend, and I'm always impressed. But I remember that like cabin scene that we did first season,
yeah.
And then like to see how this journey that we've gone on together, and it's just so cool to see the growth and the performances that you've delivered, and then getting to kind of go back in time and relive that again, knowing what we know, was really, really fun to see. And it was very weird. I wanted to be able to record in studio.
Yeah.
Because we recorded, was it all of Alicization? I think it was all of Alicization at home.
I did, well, I think Asuna doesn't show up much in the first part of Alicization.
True, yeah.
So I did half of Alicization in studio,
okay.
And then the second half of Alicization, War of Underworld, and then, some of the other parts before that at my home studio.
Yeah, I did do some of Alicization, because it's so weird, you don't remember when things started, when we started working at home.
Time is a weird thing, right?
Yeah, I really wanted to do the movie in studio, and we just couldn't, to keep everybody safe. So I really, really appreciated Alex and our wonderful engineer. There were moments where just the internet's not as great as it could be, and you cannot see picture. And I had to trust them to be like, where's she going? She's moving to the left, to the right, and they would go, it's 2 seconds, then a jump for 1, and we would kind of have to sync for, actually one of the big fight scenes that you'll see in the earlier part of the film. That was all kind of like dub and blind, and I was really nervous because I'm such a perfectionist, and especially with Asuna and Sword Art, you really want to make sure that everything's done well. But when you're working with those two guys, it's very easy to trust and know that they won't let anything get past if it's not the best that it can possibly be.
Yeah, Alex really takes a tremendous amount of time when he's adapting those scripts, and it's just like a work of art when he's done.
Absolutely.
But one thing I really missed from not being in the studio was
the blooper reel.
The blooper. There are some bloopers. I don't know if they'll ever see the light of day.
They will never see the light of day.
I say that, and then they release the dirtiest of dirty bloopers.
Oh no!
But something Alex does is he kind of directs with his face sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know if he does that
hand, he'll
too.
do like a hand. He'll do like a hand. He'll go, or he'll say, "Can I get a little bit more like gritted teeth?" And he'll just show like. So usually we get like a window where we can see Alex, and he'll kind of talk to us through the window. And like have that interaction, and sometimes he'll say like, could you slump over a little bit more, or could you lean back, or can we get you a chair just so that we can get a little bit more of the energy. And it's so hard when you can't see anybody. You really just have to rely on the audio quality. But there was one scene, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a scene with Asuna. Actually, I feel like it's the first time that Asuna meets Kirito, and she's kind of in a rough place. And when this movie came around, I was like not in a great emotional place. I was just kind of really emotionally run down from isolation and things like that. And for that scene, something was not working with the timing, or we kept having to do a lot of rewrites. And Alex was like, I feel like you can amp up the frustration a little bit. And I didn't realize that I had been frustrated as myself because of everything that had been going on. And I had been playing that down because I'm like, well, I don't want my frustration to come into the session and come into my job.
Yeah.
But I was not bringing it in on purpose because I didn't want to seem like I wasn't excited to get to work that day, and I got to use it. And then I watched it, and John was watching, and he goes, Cherami, that was like so honest, that was so real. I was like, it was that couple of weeks, and he goes, man, I was hurting. I heard it in your voice. I was like, well, when my husband is like, dude, that was painful. I was there and I heard it. I was like, thank you, I know. I was so glad I got to use that for Asuna. Thanks again, Asuna.
Well, yeah, it really came through. It was beautiful.
Thank you, it was very fun to work on that.
I'm excited for the next one.
I know.
Cannot wait to kind of return.
Man, I want to
and
go
see
back
where
in
the story
studio.
goes.
We'll see.
Fingers
We have to
crossed.
record from home. We know we can do it, but it'd be really cool.
So should we open up a couple questions? What do you guys want to talk about? Why don't we start right here? We'll go 1, 2.
Okay. There's another movie you guys did. I don't think you mentioned it. Ordinal Scale. What happened with that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I own it. I own the movie too. So I was
Yeah.
like, I watched your entire performance, especially with Asuna's. You know, she was adapt to more realistic environment versus Kirito, who was like, I don't want to do this, and it was funny.
Yeah, Kirito is a gamer. I get asked this a lot. Like, if your characters fought, who would win? Do you get that question a bunch?
I do.
So I always
But
say,
you have a better answer.
Yeah.
I don't answer. This is when it's always interesting to see what you answer and what I answer, because they're usually like, I don't want to choose.
Yeah, I'm very confident that Kirito would be the most powerful fighter in my arsenal of characters inside a video game
1,000%.
because he's
Yeah.
cheating.
He's not a cheater, Bryce.
It's a beater.
He's a beater, not a cheater.
Yeah, call what you will, but he wins. His life bar does not go down. He is God mode running. Outside a game, he's the first one to die. He's out of shape, he's slow, he's dying first.
Well, he's gotten better over
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
So maybe he could hold his own for like 15 minutes.
He can jump on his motorcycle
There
and
you
kind of get
go.
away from people. He's a good
Yeah,
rider.
we could get him a Vespa. A Vespa with Asuna on the back of the Vespa, that'd be cute.
Ordinal Scale. Who's seen Ordinal Scale?
Ooh, sweet, okay, cool.
Awesome. Really, really great film. And one thing I love about working on movies is being able to go and see them in the theater with an audience.
So much fun.
Because it's so different than watching shows by yourself. Like you feed off the energy in the room and you feel all the battles and like that's the right way to enjoy this kind of media. So yeah, I hope when the next Progressive comes out, it gets a wider release so more people can enjoy that experience.
Yeah, and for Ordinal Scale, when the film came out, we got to see the subbed version with a few members of the Japanese production team. They had been touring with the film, and so they did this huge premiere, and we got to sit down and watch it with them, and they got to see how an American audience responded, which was really, really special. And then I actually had my first session recording for the dub of Ordinal Scale the next day. So I got to see the movie in theaters, get to see an audience's reaction, which was really fun, and then jump in the booth and record the day after. And I've never gotten to have that same experience of like watching it, surround sound, all these people, and then we get to work the next day. Usually it's either far more removed and we have no idea we're getting a dub until much later, or we've been working on the dub already and then the film comes out. So that was a really special experience to get to do that so close together.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yes, Sarah.
What's your favorite fight that you guys recorded in Sword Art Online so far? Or favorite two, if it's hard to pick?
The question was, what's our favorite fight in all of Sword Art Online?
It's fresh on my mind, and I really did like it. So there's a pretty epic fight near the end of SAO Progressive Part 1, and I think that's probably one of my all-time faves.
The first time that they're kind of using the Switch together
Yep,
and working as a team, and that was really cool. And I love the way they kind of redid it with the new animation and like
it's
just added
just
to it. Oh,
visually beautiful. Oh, but also, the ordinal scale battle where we have like, it's very, it feels like a very like Avengers kind of battle where they're like,
Yes.
on your left and here. It's like, and the whole time watching that with an audience, and people are like, yes! And then every time anybody jumps in, that was really, really fun.
that has so many callbacks to like all of those like moments throughout the show.
Totally. It was so fun. So those two would probably be my faves.
Yeah, good choices. It's so hard to pick. There's so many good fights throughout the series. And I'm really bad at choosing favorites. Like
You really are.
I'm terrible.
I'm trying to get better, but I'm not that great at it either. I feel guilty about it for weeks.
It's so tough. I mean, like I just start listing everything from like the beginning, from that first Aincrad season into the fairy arc where he's going up the tree. Like that's so insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gale. I just wanted him to have a photon sword, lightsaber, photon sword, and cut a bullet in half with it. And I got that in Gun Gale. That was so cool. I mean, even Caliber, Mother's Rosario, like,
Oh my gosh.
so many good moments. And all through Alice's Asian, there's some really insane fights. So, yeah, I mean, there you go. I just listed everything.
I also, Bryce, somebody told me about this the other day because they heard that I couldn't make decisions, and I was like, Bryce needs this too. So you know, like the see and say,
Yes.
like machine.
Yes.
So you would just put your characters' faces on each panel, and then that's how you would decide. Just a little roulette.
Bryce likes
Yep.
Teeny Tone.
Yep, that's it. I think that's the way you should go.
But then I just keep pulling the thing. Bryce likes Aaron
So
Yeager.
you get all of them.
Bryce likes Rin Okuma.
That would be the panel called Bryce Likes. It's like,
Make it happen.
Okay, I love it. That sounds fun. Would you like to pick someone?
Oh, sure. Yeah, somebody had their hand up right behind you, and then yes, you. I'm sorry, I'm not specific, but yes. Yes.
So I think also we would all agree that Austin and I got a lot of much needed new character development for Progressive. If you could pick another character, whether living or deceased at this point, what character would you pick to get more of a development?
Ooh, in Sword Art?
So the question was, if we could pick another character in the world of Sword Art Online to get more character development or more of a feature in the show or in future parts of the show, who would it be?
I have a selfish answer. Asuna's brother.
Oh.
Thank you. It's a very biased answer, but we know so much about Asuna's brother just being referenced, and it's not a spoiler. Asuna would not have gotten into the world of Sword Art Online without her brother's influence, and so I would love a little bit of like a little prequel, kind of where you get to know their relationship, get to know her brother, and all that good stuff. So, Asuna's brother. That's my answer.
Nice. I'm going to answer this with a bunch of characters.
Yes, I made a choice.
As I do. Okay. I'll pick one.
Oh no, I said I made a choice.
You
You
made a
don't have
choice.
to. I will never force you to make a choice.
Well, fine, then I won't. So I want to see a spin-off with Aegil, where, right? And I just want him ripping people off inside his armor.
Yeah!
So you get like all these.
So it would be
beasts.
like Cheers.
Yes.
But with Agil.
But with Agil, yeah.
Oh,
In the bar and then in
yes.
the world, like him just like
Oh my
ripping
gosh.
people off and
I
having
love
like
that.
so you could see like what led people to get to Agil's, like to the Dicey
That's
Cafe.
really-
Like
that's really
I would
good.
love to see that. That would
I
be
like that
super
a lot.
fun. I also want, and I know Alicization is like an extended arc, but I want more Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yes!
I love the kind of relationship that they built and that bond. Like they're like so close through that arc, and I thought it was so special and so sad. So I want more Yu-Gi-Oh! Kirito time.
Sure.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Bryce, you made choices.
Right? I think too.
I'm so proud. That was great.
And I
Oh,
think-
yes, yeah. Mhm.
Out of all of you guys have got to voice them through so many different changes from the very beginning of Minecraft to all the way to Alicization, and the progressive movies as well, and the more in depth, and hopefully movie Cradle in the future. But what is your favorite recording? Like you guys get to record and say, what are your favorite moments?
Wow. So favorite moments throughout the entire series. I know I'm gonna list like 20 things. No, that's me, not you. That's a great question. I can't choose. I mean, it's always so tough when you try to narrow down like so many phases of life into just like pick one of those things.
Yeah.
And each kind of moment, each arc of the show is like a different part of my life. And different places, different things are happening. So like there's special things around all of those. There's been so many, like I feel so grateful to have so many great moments around this show. I always think back though to like the first time we got to hang out really at a convention.
Yeah.
Like that, for some reason, like that moment of like, they were just announcing us as our characters, and during recording, we hadn't really interacted very
At
much
all.
in that first season. I think it was like right around where we were recording that cabin scene that we kind of passed each other in
Yeah.
the studio, just said hello, and that was it. So we didn't know each other then. It wasn't until, I think, Anime Boston.
Yeah.
That brought us out, and they were announcing that we were the actors in the show, and we did a signing together where we were sitting next to each other, and behind us, they were looping the trailer of the show. And by like, maybe the first hour, we had memorized the entire trailer.
Yeah.
And like we were talking to people, and one of the producers that was there noticed how large the line was, and noticed how much we like to talk to people, and said, if you don't continue and go faster, there's no way you're gonna get through this line, so don't talk to anyone. So we're like, okay.
We had a few rules. We could say hello, goodbye, thank you, or the lines from the trailer. That was all we were allowed to say.
So we would be signing something, and then a part in the trailer would come up, and I'd just make eye contact with the person and go, Asuna!
I still remember there was that, and then right after it was like, even if a monster beats me and I die, I won't lose to this world. Like that was Asuna's line in the trailer. And so like to this, it's like looped in my brain. I still remember that. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
And also, at that same event, I was like, I hope people come to this panel, like to see, and the room was probably like this size, but it was much deeper.
Yes.
And I was like, man, this is a big room, I hope we fill it. And the panel was supposed to start, and they weren't letting people in, and we were like, oh man, there's nobody here. And then a staff member like rushes in, like all the way to the front. She was like, so we have a massive problem. And we were like, there's no one here. And she goes, oh, no, that would be great, actually. She was like, we could fill this room 6 times over. And everybody is like, I'll sit on the floor or on the lap of the person next to me. How many people can we fit? And Bryce and I were like, people are gonna come see it. We had like no idea. And so just that response from the beginning from the fans was overwhelming and really special. Because when you work on something, a lot of times the producers will say, So this is pretty popular, and that's exciting, but it's also a lot of pressure because you're like, well, now if it's not popular here, we did something wrong. And so when you guys show up for it, we don't at all take it for granted. We're so appreciative, and it's never any less exciting every single time that it happens. Like, we are blown away every single time. So that's definitely one of my favorite moments as well. That was so much fun.
Yeah, I think like if you want moments from inside the booth also, I mean, when we're in there, we're by ourselves. So really like the connection is between like me and then the engineer and Alex. But like as far as the other actors, like we don't really interact with each other until we're at these types of events. So Cherami and I really became friends because of conventions. And then, you know, since I think you've become better friends with Samantha,
Yeah,
my wife.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I'm always jealous because they get to hang out, and I'm like, I want to hang out with Cherami
do.
too.
Samantha and I, when we would go to conventions, when Samantha would travel with Bryce, she and I would be like, we would like to go work out. And so we'll be like, we can get up and go work out before the convention. It's not really happened so much anymore. You guys have 3 kids and I'm very tired. But we still like to hang out whenever we can, which is really lovely. I think one of my favorite moments recording in the booth that really like set the tone, that I was like, man, this show is going to be really special. My background is in film and television and doing a lot of cinematic stuff. So a lot of times when I do voiceover, everybody's like, a little bit bigger, please, a little bit more over the top. And for Sword Art, that very first cabin scene with Kirito and Asuna, it really felt like a movie. And I was like, man, this is like what I do for film and TV, but in animation. And so it's taking the 2 things that I love and like putting them together. And so that was really special. And once I feel like I kind of locked in, like this is the tone, this is the vibe, I knew how Alex wanted to take the show, and it made all the difference. So that's one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, thinking back to that first season also, when I watched the show in Japanese, I was fortunate to be able to see the show before I went in to record. In episode 1, when Kirito is having his kind of first battle with that wolf, Matsuoka-san, the Japanese seiyuu, he lets out this big, massive scream that was so incredible. It gave me chills. And when I got in there, I really wanted to put something out that would stand next to it, that would hopefully give viewers the same thing that I felt. And I was so lucky that Alex wanted that same thing, and he was open to letting me work at it until we both felt that we found that sound. So we would save 15 minutes at the end of every session just to scream.
We still do.
And it never ended. Like, that's been the routine recording Sword Art Online, is to kind of, oh, here's a big massive scream, let's do that later. And then we save 15 minutes at the end of every session to really nail down all those screams just right. So they not only look appropriate for the position that the character is in, the mouth, and then any movement inside those attacks, but also it gives you that kind of same sense. So hopefully when you guys hear those back, it comes through in that way, and that the hard work that went into those paid off. And I'm really proud of that first scream in that first episode. We put a lot of time into that particular one. And I really love how it sounds.
The poor microphones take such a hit working on the show. During the movie, because I was recording from home, I kept having like turn the gain down, turn the gain down, turn the gain down. And our engineer was like, Cherami, it's not the gain. The microphone he was like, it's just not. You're kind of like killing the microphone.
Yeah.
And I go, I'm sorry, do I just need a better microphone? He goes, no, you and Bryce both do this. And I was like, oh, just the microphone really, you gotta get like at the very right angle where it's not, and sometimes you'll do a great scream and go like, that's the one, and the microphone's like, yeah, no, not from this angle, it's not. So that's been very interesting.
Yeah, I learned a couple things about microphones during the recording of Sword Art Online. First off, there's what's called a cap inside the mic that's kind of floating. And if you scream really loud and hit it with a lot of pressure really quickly, that cap inside slams against the back of the microphone and it sounds like that, in the middle of your scream. So when that happens, you have to move your pressure away from the cap and kind of push it either off to the side, but if you back up too much, then it sounds like you're in a big space.
Yeah.
And you get an echo, even if there's soundproofing in the room. So it's like this perfect sweet spot that you have to find to catch those screams. So that was one problem. I was also getting this weird like it will sound like that from even the studio mics, not even the microphone I have at, it's understandable that actors would have engineering problems when they're recording by themselves, because we're not engineers. There's people that are there with us that set the mics, that take care of them, that do everything for you. And now, I've always had a lot of respect for engineers, but even more so recording remotely, because we've had to learn a bunch of that stuff, and I'm still very much a novice. I kind of have learned some techniques now, but at the beginning, I didn't know what to do. In fact, when I was recording Alicization, I hadn't built the booth that I have at my house currently. So the fastest way to build a recording studio is to retrofit a closet.
Yep.
So for Alicization and all of kind of the end of that series, I was screaming inside a closet.
That's what I did for the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of those screams are ridiculous.
Yep.
So to get the scream to pick up, I was literally like upside down in the middle of summer, dripping sweat, screaming up at my mic, or like standing on chairs, yelling down at the microphone, doing all these like acrobatics in the booth
To try to figure out how to not kill the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It was fun.
It was fun. Yeah, it was interesting. It was very interesting, but a lot of screaming.
We made a lot of jokes. I make a lot of jokes about being like, feeling like animals in the zoo when you're recording, because there's like a window and everybody's just staring at you. But like when you're recording like that, like from all different angles, you're like, no, I've become a monkey. That's how we're doing this. Okay. Yeah, and even if you have the quietest room ever, when you're on set for film, it doesn't matter where you are, the boom mic will always, the sound team will always ask everybody to be quiet for 30 to 60 seconds so we can get room tone, because no matter how quiet the room may be, everybody's room tone is going to sound different. So when you're recording at home, everybody's got a different location. So everybody's room tone is going to be a little bit different, and we've got to make it all sound the same. So even at a studio, there's a room tone. It can't be perfectly silent, but at least it's all the same. And then they've got to clean that, but at least they know what to look for. When every actor's room is different and their space is different, they've got to clean everybody's room tone just a little bit differently, which is such an additional headache. But it has made me like obsessive about sound. Like I live in the quiet place where I'm like, there's the AC and it feels like it's coming from the top, like right of this room.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
We'll jump out for more. Yes.
So if there, like in real life, if there was an actual MMORPG to actually come out, would you trust it and actually play it?
So if there was a full dive MMORPG, Cherami's already saying no.
No. Would you do it?
I mean, maybe. Sounds fun.
In the beginning, Bryce was always like, yes. And I feel like now we know too much.
Yes. I mean, I wouldn't do well. I would be terrible. I'd probably be like one of those guys you see in games just jumping against a wall.
I would be the person who, if somebody put me there, it was not by choice, and I would just sit on the floor and cry. So Sword Art Online has clearly showed that there is a dark side to some technologies, and that they can be used not for the best of intentions. They can be great, they can be super helpful. I think it's really interesting that this came out in 2022. And I think it's really interesting that we now have technology that came out in 2022 that seems very reminiscent of that. And that's just like a little too close to comfort for me. That's like a coincidence that I'm like, are you psychic? So I don't know, I would have to see. But at this point in time, that is not a gamble that I'm willing to take. I gamble every day for auditions. I gotta be real careful with the other gambles that I take in my life.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Your turn.
Yes.
With such a rapid following, have you
Submissions of dubs out there is the question.
I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't really seen any fan dubs either. I mean, I think that's awesome. It's a great way to like experiment and kind of get a little taste of what we do in the booth. But I haven't come across any.
You know, I mean, we've watched a couple episodes of SAO Abridged. That's probably the closest that we've probably come to that. But I know so many people, which I think is great. They love the characters and they want to put their own spin on things and create stuff. But that's probably the only one that I've seen episodes of personally. So.
Yeah, I've met a number of people who discovered Sword Art through SAO Abridged, and then they went and watched the show proper and became fans of the show. So I think that's great to help kind of spread the knowledge about the show. I think it's cool when that happens, as long as those abridged series are paying homage to the original creator. Then I think it's fine.
Yeah.
My turn?
Yeah.
Right over here, yeah.
So in Alicization, the real people were able to make AIs, and they were eventually able to communicate with them. So if you could pick one character from any SAO to become an AI to talk to them, who would it be?
Oh, so we get to take a character and make them into an AI that we can now interact with
Yeah.
in real life.
Yeah.
I know what my
Awesome.
answer is. What's your answer?
You have a good one already?
Yeah, I know who I would choose.
I mean, I would like Yui to sit in my pocket.
Yes! Yes!
Or even like in Ordinal Scale, like they have Yui there as almost AR.
Yeah.
Like that would be really cool if you had like glasses and then you could see and interact with Yui and have her like look stuff up for you
Yeah,
and do things.
I don't care however they do it. Just Yui.
Yui, yeah.
Bring Yui
Yes.
to life in whatever way you can.
That would be so cool.
Yes.
I was just wondering if you had heard about a VR MMO game called Zenith that's based on Sword Art.
What's the name of the game?
Zenith?
Zenith.
I feel like I've heard of it, but maybe I'm thinking of the wrong thing.
I don't know if I've seen anything about this. Is this is it like it's a full dive, well not full dive, but a VR game?
Yeah, it's only a VR game. It's only based on Sword Art.
Oh.
That's awesome. So it's out, released,
Yeah,
or?
it's been out for a couple of months.
Awesome. Do you play?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
official release date. It's
Were you a beta tester?
No.
December 18th, 2021.
Oh, interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah, I have not come across that game, but I'll go check it out.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That is cool. Bryce, you let me know how it is, and then I'll
So
You're the
actually,
beta tester after all, Bryce.
this is kind of a really cool story.
Fully funded in 4 hours?
Wow, that's awesome. We were able to host a panel at another event, and a bunch of the Japanese cast were there. And that panel got sponsored by Oculus.
I didn't know it was sponsored by
Yeah,
Oculus.
like they kind of came in as like a sponsored
Very
gift
cool.
to the Japanese cast that were on the panel, you know, the new Oculus. And we were talking to them and they were like, you guys did such an amazing job. We want you to have our Oculus. So
It was so, like, we're like, no, it's yours. and they're like, no, we want you guys to have it. It was so crazy. They were so kind.
Yeah, it was so nice of them to do that, and so unexpected.
Yeah.
It's such a unique experience to be able to meet your Japanese counterpart or the Japanese cast and crew. And it's another thing to like have a real connection with them.
Yeah.
And even though there was a language barrier and we had translators, like it was so cool to know that they had seen some of our stuff and they were reacting to, you know, our performances as the characters. And yeah, Matsuoka-san, who plays Kirito, and
So
Inosuke, like I love his performances. And it's always so cool when he sees a bit of mine and he goes, oh, like he like likes it. So we had kind of a nice mutual back and forth love for each other, which is just so special. But it was really unique that he and the other cast like gifted us their Oculus. So yeah, that's the newest thing that I have, to be able to go in there and play that. Maybe I'll see if I can
You
get it
let
to
me know
work
how
on
it
that.
goes. And I'll jump into that one if you tell me it's safe.
Right here, yeah.
Okay. What was your guys' favorite arc in Sword Art Online that you were able to voice act?
Our favorite arc in the entire show. You know how I'll answer this. Every arc in the show.
I really love the Mother Cesario arc. I also love the first one. I love the Aincrad arc a lot as well, but the Mother Cesario arc is really, really special.
Yeah, it's so hard to choose. But you know, actually, I'll say Aincrad is really, really special. I mean, it's what got me into the show. It's what kicked this whole thing off, this whole adventure off for us. So Aincrad, like, and that's why I love Progressive. That we get to go back to Aincrad, which is a weird thing to want to do.
No, but there is something very nostalgic and like it feels like home going back to Aincrad, which
Yeah.
is kind of nice.
Yeah. Your turn.
Yes.
You guys should do more professionals.
Oh, thank you. That was really fun. We got to play twins in Confessionals.
We did.
It was a web series that is available still online, where it is like a mockumentary style, real voice actors. We just wanted to work together on camera as well, and so we have a bunch of voice actors. We're playing a bunch of absurd characters. I had a weird idea to do this on the way back from a convention, and I said I was going to write it, and then I never got around to it, and my husband said, then I'll write it. So he did, and it got kickstarted and funded by you guys, and then we filmed it at SAC Anime. While we were doing programming, we would be doing a convention like we were this weekend, and then we'd sneak away in between panels, and everybody would do their scenes that when they weren't being utilized for programming. And it was a crazy weekend, but it was a lot of fun. But yeah, Bryce plays my twin. I'm not very nice to him.
Yeah, she's not. You know, actually, I went back to SAC Anime last year, and there's kind of these back halls that they gave us access to, and they were like taking me through one of the back halls, and I just stopped, and I'm like, I've been here before.
Yeah.
And then I looked over, and it was like this one spot that we shot a bunch of my stuff from Confessionals, and I was just like thinking about that whole experience, and it just made me happy.
It's so much fun. I walked into that hotel and I was like, oh my gosh, I knew where everybody stood. So it was a weird thing. There's a character in the show called Dawson. And I looked at the restaurant in the hotel and it's called Dawson. And it was not on purpose, but I told John, he was like, oh my gosh, that's so weird.
That is so funny.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I don't know if we'll ever do more Confessionals. I won't rule it out, but it would be really, really tricky now to get to film it at conventions.
Yes.
The way that we used to do that. So I don't know if we'd be able to, but it's possible, I guess.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, if you guys decide to continue, I would love to do more.
It would be so much fun.
It was a lot of fun, yeah.
Poor Riley would have to go to therapy.
Yes. I think we have time for just a few more questions. Let's go right here, yeah.
What are some of the moments in the show where the music and the singing just
everything lined up. It was like perfect.
Oh,
There's so many.
Yeah.
And what's so nice about working with Alex, our director, we'll just sing his praises all day, every day. But he has such a great ear for that. And sometimes we will, we'll do the scene, we'll play it, we'll get a button, it will sound great, and then he'll say, can we play that with the M&E? Can I play it with the music and effects? And we play it with the music and effects, and it just like doesn't land. And I'll say like, can I try that again? I think the last note of where Asuna's line ends does not hit with the music sting that ends at the end of it. And Alex will say, you're absolutely right, and we'll go back and he takes the time so that we can retake the lines and figure out what the best way to serve the scene is, so that you really get that nice impact. I wouldn't say not a lot of directors, but there are some directors that, not because they don't want to, but because they don't have the time or the ability, because things have to be done so quickly, they just kind of like have to take the best option available in the short amount of time. But Alex will push back and take the time to make sure that it's exactly right. And there's moments where I've gone, Alex, that makes all the difference in the world, and it does.
Yeah, definitely. We're just one small cog in this production. And there's a lot of people that are on the team that are really, really passionate about this franchise. And it really shows. It comes through in all the different pieces, from, things in the original, like the music and the M&E, but also in the English performances, and even down to like the way the Blu-rays are designed.
Yeah.
And like the packaging around them, like they're really beautiful and nice. So it's cool to be a part of a team that really, really cares and wants the final product to be just right, to pay proper homage to such a great story. I think we have time for one more question. One more, okay.
Yes.
Not really a question, I just wanted to say thank you guys. I only watch English subs, I don't watch subs, and what you guys did is really important to me as well. So coming out to see us, like I came to see both of you, and you guys really did see me in the So I just wanted to say thank you for showing.
Thank you. It's my favorite part of what we do. I mean, we love getting to create the characters. I love getting to act. I love getting to tell stories. But once these characters are done, I don't really get to talk to anybody about it. And then when I get to meet you guys, and you guys are so open and vulnerable, and you share your stories and how you personally connect with the characters, I get to fall in love with Asuna all over again from your eyes. And I get to see my friend again, who I haven't gotten to see since we got to work on the movies. And nothing is promised. I mean, they say we're gonna get to do more seasons, or they say we're gonna get to do another movie, but any of that can change at any point in time. So I really, really thank you guys for coming out to these events and taking the time to come to panels and spend time with us, because it really is, it's such a gift. So thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I think like we work by ourselves in these rooms, and you pour your heart into the microphone and you hope somebody hears it.
Yeah.
And coming out to these conventions is really like a voice actor's applause. So thank you guys so much for making this special for us as well. Really appreciate you, and I've had such a great time.
It's
here
been
at
so
MTAC.
much fun.
It's been
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you guys. This was really, really fun.